Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of That's Ruddy Mysterious, a podcast of short tales about true mysteries. What created the Potomsky Crater? Who was involved in the 1963 Great Train Robbery? I'm not going to solve those mysteries, but they'll be interesting to learn about. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. Transcripts and references for all episodes can be found at that'sruddymysterious.wordpress.com. No apostrophe and no exclamation point. Today's tale is about the Wow signal. The Wow signal was first discovered on August 15, 1977 at around 11:16 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Astronomer Jerry Amen was the first to discover the signal. He said, "It was a narrow band signal, just what we were looking for with SETI. It didn't take long for me to recognize that this was extremely interesting, and the word wow came to my mind very quickly, so I wrote it down." The Wow signal was discovered at the Big Ear Observatory in Ohio. The Big Ear Radio Observatory was originally built to create the most accurate radio sky map ever. The observatory had completed this task by 1972, so it needed to be given a new task. In 1973, NASA agreed to fund a mostly volunteer effort to find radio signals in space that might be sent by extraterrestrials. Before 1973, the telescope was used to measure the location and strength of wideband radio signals. In 1973, the telescope was converted from measuring the strength and location of wideband sources to a similar study of narrowband radio sources. The Big Ear telescope no longer exists. It was destroyed in 1988 by land developers. Today, the area where the telescope once sat is an 18-hole golf course and housing. On the night of August 15, 1977, the Big Ear telescope was searching for messages in the electromagnetic frequency band 1420.4056 MHz, which can be produced by hydrogen. The observatory was watching the sky northwest of the globular star cluster M55. The signal peaked at approximately 23:16:01 Eastern Daylight Time. The signal was intermittent. It started out low, increased in strength, then dropped off again. It likely occurred this way when the region of the sky passed over the detector. At the time, the observatory was not manned. It was controlled remotely and could collect several days of data before the computer ran out of storage space. At that time, someone would go to the observatory, collect the data, and reset things so the telescope could begin observing a different patch of sky. Jerry Amen was one of the volunteers reviewing the data. Although he was not there in real time to see the signal, Jerry Amen found the signal in the data. The signal was unusual. When reviewing the data several days after it was found, Amen wrote "Wow" next to it. He described what happened in a report 30 years later. He said, "A few days after the August 15, 1977 detection, probably on August 19th, I began my routine review of the computer printout from the multi-day run that began on August 15th. A few pages into the computer printout, I was astonished to see the string sequence of numbers and characters 6EQUJ5 in channel 2 of the printout. I immediately recognized this as the pattern we would expect to see from a narrow band, i.e. narrow frequency band, radio source of small angular diameter in the sky. In the red pen I was using, I immediately highlighted those 6 characters and wrote the notation WOW in the left margin of the computer printout opposite them. The strongest intensity of the signal is represented by the U, which means the signal was 30.5 plus or minus 0.5 times stronger than the background noise. For many years, people have debated what caused the signal. Some believe the signal was created by extraterrestrials. People that believe this theory say the signal is like the Arecibo message that we sent to the globular star cluster M13 in 1974. Using the Arecibo message, we were attempting to transmit information to extraterrestrials. Others believe that the signal was created by a star, although there is no agreed-upon explanation for this theory. The signal was brief but powerful. It lasted 1 minute 12 seconds and was heard on a frequency of about 1,420 MHz, which is also called the 21 centimeter line. This is the same frequency as radio waves emitted by neutral hydrogen gas in space. Later searches didn't find any signal again until in 2015, Antonio Paris, an adjunct professor of astronomy at St. Petersburg College in Florida, searched the sky again. Paris was also an ex-analyst of the U.S. Department of Defense. He said that new evidence shows the Wow signal was created by a passing comet. There were 2 comets passing Earth at the time of the signal. 266P Christensen was discovered in 2006, and P2008Y2 Gibbs was discovered in December of 2008. Both comets were passing through the part of the sky that the Big Ear Radio Observatory was surveying in 1977. They passed through between July 27th and August 15th, 1977. Some astronomers believe that the signal came from the hydrogen cloud accompanying one or the other or even both comets. This would explain why the signal was not heard again. Paris and his team surveyed the sky in the same area when 266P Christensen was again passing through. He found a signal that matched the Wow signal. When the telescope moved just 1 degree away from the comet, the signal was lost. When it was moved back, the signal reappeared. The original signal, however, was stronger than the new signal. Paris says this is because the comet would have been bigger in 1977. He admits the signal is not the same, but says the original signal was caused by a natural phenomenon. Paris, however, did not explain why Eamon and his colleagues couldn't find the signal when they searched again. It should have been visible for days to weeks later. Skeptics of this theory say comets don't emit radio waves in the right way for this to have been the cause of the signal. Jerry Eamon said, "We do not believe the 2 comets theory can explain the Wow signal." Seth Shostak is a senior astronomer at SETI, or the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute. He told Live Science that he doesn't believe anyone has ever found similar emissions from comets. Paris himself said this theory may not be correct. He said, "The issue with the feed horns is something that no one can explain, including me." Paris said, "There is some data out there to suggest the issue is at the telescope end and not the phenomenon itself." He went on to explain that it's possible the signal could have been caused by a glitch in the Big Ear telescope. In 2022, astronomy YouTuber and space enthusiast Alberto Caballero said the signal may have been originated at a sun-like star that is 1,800 light-years from Earth in the Sagittarius constellation, which the Big Ear Observatory was observing at the time of the signal. He explained to Live Science, "The Wow signal is considered the best SETI candidate radio signal that we have picked up with our telescopes." Caballero found one sun-like star called 2MASS 1982812-2640123, about 1,800 light-years away. The temperature, diameter, and luminosity resemble our own sun. Caballero thinks this star may be a good candidate for the Wow signal. He thinks we should try to detect and observe any exoplanets of that star which could support life. However, Caballero's theory also doesn't explain why the signal was not detectable again when moving the array back into position. Shostak told Astronomy Magazine, "What that ET, or was it not ET, nobody knows. Nobody has ever found another explanation for what might have been. It's like you hear chains rattling in your attic and you think, my God, ghosts are real. But then you never hear them again, so what do you think?" He went on to explain that if the signal hadn't had the word Wow written next to it, we never would have heard of it. It wasn't unusual to hear a one-off signal like this at the time. He continued that computers at the time didn't have the power to do real-time follow-ups. He said that if the signal had been picked up today, the computer would have said, "Wow," and astronomers would immediately begin turning the telescope back to the area to figure out what it was. He said that once the computers at observatories became sophisticated enough for real-time follow-ups, the number of mysterious signals dropped significantly. He joked that the aliens knew we had better equipment, so they went silent. What caused the WOW signal? Was it simply the signal set off by hydrogen clouds following comets? Did it come from extraterrestrials on an exoplanet of 2 mass? What do you think? Thanks for listening to today's episode of That's Ready Mysterious. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a review and follow That's Ready Mysterious to be updated about new episodes. Tune in next Tuesday for another thought-provoking tale.